I do have a question. The reserves, and I know I read this someplace, and I think it was in the 218 book. The reserves they do have an effect on how much you can raise rates. Okay, when I say you can raise rates, basically we can't raise rates greater than the benefits that people are getting. That's kind of the rule of thumb. It's probably the legal rule too. So how does these reserves affect, I think this is what you were talking about, the rates. How does these reserves affect the price of our water, if you will? Or how much we can raise the prices of the water? And so if we have these, if we say we're going to have a 25% reserve, is that going to say then we can go up 25%? Well, not 25%,
right,
but a proportional number.
What percentage do we have to, if we're not reserving anything today, what do we have to go to put ourselves in that financial stability point?
Well, from a practical standpoint, I think that's what you'd want to do is if you're going into a 218, you're going to say, how much can I squeeze the folks out there, and that's the amount I'm going to call for a reserve, if that's what I have to get up to the number I want, okay? But by the way, Jim, this is called starting with the end in mind, not starting at job descriptions. That's if any of you follow Covey, that was one of his deals. So it's not cut and dry. CARLSON told me once that it's hard for banks to loan for working capital, okay? But he couldn't tell me why. And for me, it would seem like, and I never checked it out, I would think a bank would be delighted to loan working capital to an organization like this because you've got captive customers. They got to pay. They can't get water anyplace else. So, some of these loans will be a substitution of some of these things. Okay, some of these reserves and things. But you're not going to, nobody in the world's got reserves set up at 3 times the depreciation. It just doesn't work. Our free enterprise system won't let you price at that. You should have seen some of the things they were trying to do back in the days of Jimmy Carter. When Jimmy Carter we had 20-30% inflation. I don't remember what it was. And the accountants were writing whole books on how can you cover the replacement cost of things, You can't do it.
Thank you, Wes. Thank you. Okay, gentlemen. Did I lose one?
I think you went to that.
Here we come.
Motion's still on the
Well, it's
table.
not going to
We have a first and a second. Yes, we still have a motion on the table. So we have a motion on the table. I'm going to go ahead and call for the vote.
Can you clarify the motion, because he was talking about making some changes in that?
Oh, yeah, that would be, is the maker of the motion interested in modifying the language in the target balance of funding to clarify that we are currently that we currently don't have a mandatory set aside until we don't have an amount we're going to fund it until we have that target balance
So
established.
I withdraw my motion because we're really just talking about nothing almost right now. Changes. Is there anything, are we really doing anything? I mean, I don't mind making a motion with the changes you're talking about, I guess, but are we going to do something, or is it just something we're going to bring back?
All it's going to do is put this in place so that as we move forward, then we'll start putting these numbers in. From my perspective, and populating them in the future. Once we have a capital plan, once we have all these others, we'll be in a place to go ahead and start seeing, based on what our projections are, our forecasts is, this is the kind of reserves we will need to sustain service here in this community.
Would the resolution need to be revisited once those numbers are on hand?
I don't think so. The reason I say that is because there's not a firm commitment.
Yeah, I didn't see any real commitments in here that said we will put
exactly.
$10 million.
But what I'm asking for is a little bit of flexibility in the event that any of this feels like a commitment that we can't make. so that's all I mean. I want to make sure there's no, that it's 100% clear. We're establishing these reserve categories. We will have a balance for each one of those some of them don't have balances because it's just based on what the growth potential is, and sometimes we don't have a clue what that's going to be.
And we don't expect to start contributing to that fund for probably another year at least.
Well, on the fund related to the connection fees, we would continue to charge our existing current connection fee. We would have to determine what portion of it is capacity. So it's going to have to come back to the board for us to look at that connection fee and take some action on that. But that's aside from this. This language may be able to stand completely as it is without any changes.
Well, I made the motion, so I'll vote for it, obviously, right? And with these amendments, it sounds kind of nebulous right now. And if I only be one person voting, anyway, it's probably
She would like you to clarify your motion.
Well, we're going to take the motion that is in the board packet, the standard motion, with some modifications that the general manager has put in there to make it more workable. I guess is that what?
It would be modification of the funding or target balance language if needed to allow us to be able to establish the reserve, but establish the funding mechanism in the future when
Just exactly what I said. Just exactly
I know.
what I just said.
when the target balance was established by its respective study, because each one is going to require some level of effort, be it internal, be it borrow wells or something. I've got to get those estimates back to the source.
So the first is with Emery.
Dan was the second.
Dan still
Yes.
second.
And so I want to hear that we're going to move forward with establishing this new policy on district financial reserves with the understanding that these numbers will be provided to the district, to the board for later review, is what I'm basically hearing. Is that fair? Because we're going to establish it, but we don't have any numbers to establish, so we don't really know that. So
it is going to direct. It is going to direct that these things are going to show up in our financial statements for this year, and it will show that we've established a policy for these reserves.
And
But there was no money budgeted
there's an
for this
account
year.
number assigned to them. An account number will be assigned to them, but there won't be any.
For the next budget cycle.
all right, we beat that one up enough.
Yep.
Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
I'm going to abstain because there's just not enough information.
Abstain and then,
I think an abstain is the proper protocol because I just don't have enough information to be
Yes.
educated.
For reason you abstain because you think you got a conflict.
That's what I'm unsure. I'm a new board guy. Help me out. I don't know if it should be nay or if it should be abstain.
second, he's not sure if he can,
I'm unsure, and I think
We'll
abstain
vote one
is
way.
the proper.
Oh, man.
Whatever way you want to go.
Abstain. I shall hold my vote.
That concludes the meeting. We're down to the point of director comments. Mr. Avery?
Nothing.
Russ?
New website, I really like it. I'd like to make sure that the Irwin grant stuff gets fully documented in there, 100%. At least everything we got in this package should be on that website somewhere.
Got it.
Yeah.
I have nothing. There was something I was going to say, but now I.
The only comment I'm going to suggest to each board member is if you have issues, recommendations, suggestions, I'm going to continue to encourage you to communicate with Pete prior to the meeting so that he has a heads up and it allows him to put items on here for the agenda. So if you have comments, communicate with him, reach out and grab him, whatever you need to do. That's my comments. I want to say thanks for coming, you guys. We're going to adjourn the meeting at 4:30. And the community meeting is at 6 o'clock here, and my wife is cooking with some Costco stuff too. So if you're hungry, I'm not bringing booze, but we might need it. So.
Oh.